So good evening, everyone. Thanks very much to Marilla and all of you for hosting Andrew and I here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, which is I think everyone in this room, my name is Nick Gibson and I run a community called Our Better Selves. We're focused on creating a community of change agents. So people like you who are focused on trying to focus on the biggest challenges that we face in the world and empowering you to give you the tools and resources to make that happen. Whether you're a social entrepreneur or you're just somebody who maybe works in a corporation and just want to flex those social impact muscles, that's fantastic. We want to support you to solve those biggest challenges that we face. Andrew Moss will be presenting later on, and he'll introduce himself at that point as well. And I know I can speak for Andrew tonight in saying that, when Marilla talked about what you folks have been doing over the last several weeks now, I guess, and even today, obviously it's been a long day, it sounds like already. It's very energizing to walk into rooms like this of people who have incredible ideas, who are much smarter than I am, frankly. And it's inspiring to kind of see the work that you're doing, because I like surrounding myself with people like you who are focused on these challenges that we face, who are optimistic in the face of so many challenges, but are also clear-eyed, right, at what we face and have those great ideas to bring it to life. So, without further ado, we are going to talk a little bit about your reason to believe. So you guys have worked on this pitch for your enterprises and your ideas, your solutions. A lot of it's probably been focused on the what and the how. Right? So there's probably been some bit of the why, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we're going to focus a little bit more on the why and the purpose and that sort of intrinsic driver that brings everything to life. For you, and ultimately will help you in front of those you want to serve and those you want to convince of the great work you're doing. So, why are you all here? It's a little bit of a rhetorical question. You'll be all involved in a moment here. But I want to know ultimately why you're all here. Why you took all of these hours to put to a great initiative, but frankly, time that you could be putting towards many other things in your life. You're all busy people, right? You have great lives and friends and family and other things that you can be doing, and yet you chose to do this. Ultimately, that's why we're here tonight, to figure out that why. And to me, why I'm here, why I want to be in front of you all tonight, is for this simple reason. We are in a world today that in many ways is the best it's ever been, but also is the most challenging it's also ever been, right? So whether it's poverty or climate change or mental health, war, whatever it is, we get kind of bombarded with kind of doom and gloom. And the media does that a little bit more than maybe it should. But instead, all of you here today are the bright lights. You're trying to push through all of that because you care. You're the little bouncy smiley face on all this doom and gloom that we see here tonight. And that's why it's important that you all got started. And that's exactly what you did by getting involved with Cooperathon over the past several weeks. So again, the question is, why are you all here? What are those intrinsic drivers that brought you into this seat? So who here is familiar with Simon Sinek? Okay, so Simon Sinek talks about this notion of the power of why. Okay, so people are interested in somewhat into how you do something and what you do, but ultimately they're most interested in why you're doing it. And as I said, that's what we're really going to be focusing on tonight. You've done a lot of work, as I said, with a lot around the how and the what, and you have some amazing ideas and solutions to bring to the table. But the why is what we're going to focus on. Why should someone put their trust in each of you to take an idea or solution and bring it to execution? Okay? Ultimately, that's what you're doing. That's what you're trying to convince them of. Why you? Right? Because the idea and solution is fantastic, but why you is the person to bring it all together. All those things are critical, but you need to get that why right, or you'll never get to the how and the what. So, the way I go about this, and the way I think about this, is sort of a three-step process, and how do you kind of come up with that why? And I call it sort of your change journey, or a values activation journey. So it starts with knowing your story, so you can know your values, and then you can go out and activate your values. And in a big way, what you guys have been doing over the last little while has been zeroing in on the activate part, which is absolutely important, right? And you learn a lot from that process. But what we're going to focus on this next sort of 20-ish minutes is on these first 2 steps, a little bit more. So let's get started. Anyone who's familiar with Maya Angelou? Okay, so half the room. So if you haven't had a chance to look her up, please do. There are people in sort of the world who speak with a sort of authority that you just don't want to stop listening to. And to me, she is just one of those people. Unfortunately, she has since passed, but YouTube is a beautiful thing for this reason. And I use this quote because she's certainly an emblematic representation of this. But this kind of represents that first pillar of knowing your story, that there's no greater agony than an untold story inside you. Okay? And what I'd like to do is typically go very deep into this question with people that I work with in sort of a workshop setting. But tonight we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to choose one activity. And what we're going to do is choose a partner. Each one of you are going to choose a partner. We're going to play a game or do an activity called Because of That. Has anyone played this game before? Fantastic. All right, no one else has done this before. So what we're going to do, you're going to choose a partner, as I said. Group of 3 works if we absolutely need it, but I prefer you choose a partner. I think we were around even in terms of numbers when I counted last, but I might be off. Someone walked in the room a moment ago. But basically, this is as simple as it goes. This is how it starts. You start with one simple sentence from your past. So it could be something like, for me, I grew up in a rural area. Simple as that. Okay? And then you add the phrase, because of that. Okay? So it would go like this. I grew up in a rural area. Because of that, I had to play by myself and have a great imagination oftentimes. Right? So don't worry about the grammar oftentimes, like I did right there. But the idea here is to create a story using this sort of conjunction and glue because of that. But you're doing it on the spot. Okay? So you're kind of, it's funny, you'll notice a trend, and I'm not going to give it away, but you'll notice something as you start to create the story that I'd love to hear your comments on. But that's as simple as it is. You're going to start with a starting sentence from your past, from your childhood or something like that. You're going to add because of that, and you're going to go as far as you possibly could. As far as you possibly can with about 10 statements, okay? And then your partner is going to talk about a couple of things that they noticed, okay? Just a couple of themes, maybe ask a couple of questions to clarify, and you'll flip roles, okay? It's as simple as that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I'm that person who will wait until somebody responds. So, as I said, after you're done, make sure you're flipping. Okay, we're going to have about 5 minutes to do this, so each person is going to have about approximately 2.5 minutes. And if you need a bit more time, I might be able to flex that a little bit. But without further ado, please choose a partner. Do this standing up. I just find the energy in the room tends to work a little bit better if you're able to stand up. And go ahead. What do you guys think? What do you think of that? How's that activity? Simple after I explained it, because I obviously wasn't very good at explaining the first time. How was it? What do you think about it? How did you feel in that moment? I'm asking you a lot of questions at once, but how did you feel in the moment when you were doing this, giving the story? Like, how did it feel? Sorry? Vulnerable. Vulnerable, okay, yeah.
More connected.
More connected, okay. What else?
It was a little bit awkward to start, but then when you start, like, you keep going.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like a snowball going down a hill, right? Yeah.
It's like in the movies when they say, what's your 10 seconds before die, and you see your life move.
So did anyone, I noticed this when I did this activity the first time a while back, did anyone notice that you almost walked into this almost like flow chart where you could have like, oh, I could have gone this route and then, but no, I want to go this way. And you're like you're like trying to figure out your own like map, right, of your life. You're noticing that words are coming out of your mouth, but it's like there's like this duality in your head. It's like there's this processing of content, but you're just talking, right? Words are coming out of your mouth. It's a cool activity because it's simple, right? But the idea of this activity is to try to connect something from your past, right, about your story. Obviously, your story is much more than what you put into a 2-minute discussion with your partner. But it's meant to kind of pull out a few things that sometimes you don't even think about, right? Or you don't give yourself the space to think about. It's incredibly important when we're thinking about talking about your story to do that deep reflection, especially in places that you don't necessarily look at, okay? So, again, that was a dabble into the Know Your Story section, but gives you a sense as to how to get that started. So the next section, as I talked about earlier, is the Know Your Values section. Okay? So for those of you who read the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, this is a quote within that by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. So values, purpose, your why are kind of the foundations of this ability to persevere through these different challenges that we all face in our lives in different ways and different degrees. So, as I said, the work that I do typically will go very deep in this type of thing, but today what we're going to do, this activity is going to be a little bit more individual. Okay? It's crucial for the next step. Okay? It's crucial to connect back to your previous exercise as well. And enable yourself to know your values, it's important to be able to do that work on your story, because your story informs your values and informs where this all kind of came from, what that intrinsic compass really is. Okay? So what you're going to do, as I said, is individually take out some paper or do it on your computer, whichever way you'd like to do this, on your phone, doesn't matter to me. And I want you to list as many values that are important to you in one way or another. They can be ones that you feel like you're living right now. They feel like the ones that you want to aspire to. It could be ones that are themes in your story, right? That's why it was good for your partner to kind of comment on things that they observed in the context of what you shared in your previous story. It could be values that are possessed by the people that you admire in your life, or people who are celebrities or public figures of various sorts, okay? So try to make a big list of as many values as you possibly can, okay? And then as soon as you get everything on a page, I want you to step back for a moment and then rank your top 5. Okay? Within the top 5, you don't have to rank them, but I just want you to choose your top 5 on that list. Okay? So it's just a very, very simple exercise to reflect upon what are those values that are bubbling to the surface. So, and for the group at the back, I know I told you that you're going to get some time to do this. We're going to have about 5 or so minutes to work on this activity. If you get a bit of extra time, I still recommend you try to get that because of that exercise in if you can. But focus on this one first, and then you can go back to the other one. But a few words out there that you might resonate with or might give you some semantics that you're looking for. Again, trying to deduce your life's values in the course of 5 minutes is no easy task. But the purpose of doing this type of work is that we often don't give ourselves the space, the margin, the time in life to even think about this for 2 minutes, let alone 5 minutes, right? So this is kind of giving you a little bit of space to that, but obviously if you can carve out some more space, probably after all the great work you're doing this weekend and beyond, I highly advise it, and I'm happy to help with that as well. What we talked about earlier is this notion of starting with your story, moving on to understanding more about your values, and then going on to activate your values. And as I said to you guys before, the activate part is what you guys have been focusing on the most. Right? So we went back to the story, thought about the values. So we brought these 2 things together, 2 very simple activities. So now you have a little bit more of a sense of awareness, of at least a sliver of your story that maybe you hadn't really thought about much before. And now a little bit of a reflection on your values. And so, as I said, this is a lifelong process. Okay? This is not something you just do in 5 minutes, as we've been talking about. You'll continue to reflect and revise these things over time. And sometimes the inspiration and reflection will come out of the most unexpected of places. And I think Viktor Frankl, as I talked about before, writing the book Man's Search for Meaning, put it correctly, when we think about the values activation journey and finding your purpose journey, in this quote, it's really important and to me hits the nail on the head. So don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. And so when I read that quote, when I absorb that quote, to me the biggest thing that falls out of that is a sense of service. Service to a cause beyond you, service to people and things beyond you. Impact is also important. These are the things that are going to be most important when we think about these things here, and these are 2 ways to get at what is most important to you in terms of your service journey. Okay? Knowing a little bit more about your story and who you want to serve and those values that will drive you there. Okay? It's hard to stay on track all the time, but those values will be that compass that keep you grounded, even if you don't necessarily know where you're going at every point in your life. So it's a very simple recipe we just talked about. We get started by knowing your story, so you can know your values, and then ultimately you can activate your values. And that allows you to begin and reinvigorate even that change journey that you guys have been on in a very intentional way, particularly this last little while. So I'm going to introduce Andrew, who's going to dig into a little bit more about some great social entrepreneurs who have done exactly this sort of thing. Not necessarily the framework that I just talked about, but they have brought that full know your story, know your values, activate your values to life in their social entrepreneurship ventures. So without further ado,